Hello, I'm Chris Williams from Read Comics, They're Bad For You. If you're watching this on my BitChute account, Comic Freak, welcome. Today we're going to be reviewing Swmpthing, Episode 4, Darkness at the Edge of Town. We begin the episode with Avery Sunderland, played by Will Patton. Avery had just killed his accountant for refusing to keep giving him bank loans, and he got rid of him so that he could continue to make money for his company. He takes the body out to the swamp and both burns it and then buries it, while remembering back to the time when he was a teenager, when his father had taken him out hunting, and he says, "Go and use that knife, son, to kill this crocodile," or alligator, I think. And he refused to do it because he was scared, and his father killed the alligator for him. And he says, "Son, you can't hesitate. Yeah, if you look in his eyes, he'll kill you before never feel any pity for it." So Avery took this to heart, and he's now a killer himself, only a killer of men instead of animals. And we switch over to two hunters who are in the swamp. They're looking for something. And what they're looking for is, I think, this kind of plant they want. Well, they go into the swamp and they find something that isn't a plant. Well, it looks like a plant to me. They find a dead body. Well, one of them does. See, when he finds what they're looking for, they end up causing this tree that this body was hanging from to fall out of the tree. Now, one of the guys ends up getting bitten by the dead body. It was in there so long it had basically both looking like a mummy as well as looking like it had become part of the tree. It bit him when it fell out of the tree, and you see here its teeth and mouth were open. It fell onto the guy's arm, and it passed a curse that had been placed on the mummy. And both of the men run screaming from the swamp as fast as they possibly can. Later on, Swmpthing finds the body, and his connection with the green tells him that this is no ordinary dead body or mummy. I mean, honestly, look at that thing. It looks more like a plant than ever being a living person, huh? Well, the man who's now cursed with whatever this guy had been, cursed with, is now free and roaming into the town of Maris, Louisiana. And we come to that in a few minutes. Either way, when Swmpthing finds the body, his connection with the green causes him to curl up and back away from it, almost in fear. Well, it causes tentacles on his little plant tentacles to spring up off of his body. And we switch over to that little girl that Alec Swmpthing had rescued in the second episode. She's drawing a picture of Swmpthing, and she even gets visited by Avery Sunderland and his wife Maria. Now, they both come to check up on how the condition of the little girl, as well as the other people in town who have been contaminated by Avery's virus they unwittingly released upon them. Now, Maria becomes smitten with the little girl and insists that they take her home with them. Now, Avery's happy that his wife is happy, and that she has something to fill the void in her heart after her daughter died 14 years ago. And he thinks this will make it easier for him to get more money out of her as well, no doubt. Well, they take the girl home, and they are basically, getting along swimmingly with each other. Abby Arcane is then visited by Daniel Cassidy, the actor who used to play Blue Devil on either TV or in movies. I'm not quite sure which. Well, he's come there to visit her because he thinks he's there in Maria, Louisiana, to protect Abby Arcane, or at the least meet her for whatever purpose. And he hopes by meeting her, he can then leave the small town and go back to Hollywood. He's there, and he asks Abby a few questions, and she basically just denies any of it, ever meeting him before or anything like that. He continues to ponder these questions as he continues wondering what Madame Xanadu had meant with the reading she had given him. And we go on from this point onward to see Abby Arcane continues to ponder the situation with Alec Holland, who has now become Swmpthing. But even after this, we go over to the man who was then bitten by the dead body. He works at the same restaurant that Abby's friend, the reporter, he works there as a chef or a busboy, and he tries to wash the dishes, but then the curse that he had gotten from the corpse activates. He hallucinates a snake, and he ends up injuring himself so badly that he ends up dying from blood loss as he destroys his own hands trying to get the snake he was hallucinating off of him. What then happens is that he scratches the owner of the restaurant, his employer, the father of Abby Arcane's friend, and the curse is then passed on to him with the man's dying breath. In no time, the curse takes hold, and Abby's friend's father begins to act insane. He begins to hallucinate what happened to him when his own mother was killed by a bunch of thieves that had tried to rob the restaurant when he was a boy. He begins to see them. He whips out his gun, and he starts blasting at people who aren't even there anymore. People he hasn't seen in at least 30 or 35 years. And he gets ready to end up accidentally killing someone when the sheriff comes in and tackles him to the ground, along with Abby and her friend. They manage to get the gun away from him before he even can cause harm to himself or others, and they manage to take him to the hospital. Abby is convinced that this is yet another disease that has been spawned from the swamp, but in actuality it's a mystical, magical curse that had been enshrouded on the corpse. She goes to Alec Holland to ask him advice on this, and Swmpthing responds saying that it is a deep and evil thing that has come out of the swamp, and it needs to return to the swamp. In the scuffle I did not mention earlier, the sheriff was scratched by the man, causing the curse to pass on to him. Now, she hallucinates that her son has been killed by one of the townspeople, and she ends up taking out her gun and threatening people, but Abby manages to talk her down, but unfortunately gets scratched, and knowing that what she knows now, that the curse has been passed to her, she goes to the swamp, and she ends up having mass hallucinations of things that she can't even remember. Most likely, a man shrouded in shadows and talking in a deep and evil voice. Now, if you know anything about Swmpthing, then you know this is Abby's father. Swmpthing's archenemy, Anton Arcane. And this is a preview of what we will get when he actually makes his full appearance. Now, we can see him here. Now, this is basically maybe a promo photo for it, because I don't think this is really Anton Arcane. It might be. But when he does make his appearance, he is one of the most evil characters in the DC universe. And that includes the Vertigo universe in its prime. Anton Arcane in all his evil glory. That is him right there. It might just be like a stand-in for him. And this is just a photo that was released of when they were shooting this scene here. Because I don't know this guy. I think they'd cast someone a little more famous to play Anton. Either way, Abby Arcane is struggling against her father when Swmpthing gathers her in his arms and takes the curse away from her. He then takes the curse and all the pain and misery it has and forces it back into the dead body. And as it begins to sink into the bayou, into the muck and grime of the earth, Swmpthing and Abby breathe a sigh of relief that knowing that they have been able to accomplish that day and save the town from this evil thing. Now, this episode was good. This was a good episode. I really like it. I don't think it was as good as some of the other ones, but it was a good episode. Now, if you like this review, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed. If you're watching my videos but you're not subscribed, please hit that bell so you get notifications for all my videos. And hit that like button and leave some comments down below. And also, if you're on BitChute, subscribe to my BitChute channel, Comic Freak. And remember, keep checking back in future videos for more information on my own upcoming independent comic book, Scumdogs. Well, that's it for me today. I'll be back again tomorrow with another video or review.